I'm silly, y'all. Um, so the outline is finished, and we're about to start with the color.
I feel like it makes it a little more entertaining. Since Jenna won't juggle. You haven't tried to juggle yet. You could learn how to juggle. I have faith that you would be a great juggler. It's a house built. I told you it wouldn't be that bad. I mean, you feel it. I mean, you feel it. There ain't no doubt. I'm sure you've already filled that spot you had in June, right? Yeah, it was this. It was like the last second, week, right? Or yeah, it was. I I underestimated the amount of response that I would have got for it. So, um, and then when I got to work that next day, my assistant was like, "I filled that spot." I was like, "Okay, well, good." I mean, so it was. I definitely underestimated the amount of response that I would get for that one. The last few that I've done, I guess because of all the stuff going on, I didn't get nearly as like a immediate response. So I was like, "Oh, I'm just put it out there," and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh god." So usually what's your process? You just go online and send you requests to get something done. Probably several months out, I assume. Yeah, it just depends on how big it is, and because I do it. Start booking out I do every 3 months. Okay. But it just means however many things I finish up in the like the previous 3 months. That's how many kind of new projects I can take on. Sometimes it's more than others, and sometimes I get a lot of stuff done in 1 month. It just kind of depends on the month. I've been trying to knock out you know I've been doing pretty good about knocking out some bigger projects in the last couple months. One more question, I'll let you get back to that in a minute. Your prints, do you sell them online? We came down to the Walker Anderson Museum and saw some of your prints in there. I thought you were going to have some here, but I didn't see any. Yeah, I dropped the ball on bringing some. I didn't know what the whole layout was going to be and stuff like that. We do it on like we try to do more online, but it's kind of a little bit more difficult to keep it updated. Right. And that's my fault for just being, you know. You got a little bit going on. Plus, I think when I saw you running for city government, so. Which good luck on that, man. I don't know if it's happened yet or not. It will be on Tuesday. Tuesday, so it is the 8th still down there. Yeah. I thought. Okay. Okay. Good deal. Well, I'll let you get back to it, man. No problem. Thank you.
Okay, so while we were break, there were two questions. One, do you charge more for like private areas, or is that a common thing for tattoo artists to charge more?
Some mine. I don't. I charge a an hourly or rate no matter where I'm tattooing. Um, so some people might charge. It's just a matter of preference. I try to not say too much about how some tattooers charge because I'm sure the way that I do it's not ideal for somebody else, but it's how I've I guess come to the conclusion it's the best way for me to do it. So, but yeah, I hear that all the time that some people, charge to tattoo people more in other places, especially like guys. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm tattooing skin either way.
That's true.
I will probably charge you more if you don't take a shower though before I tattoo you.
Does that happen a lot?
Happens all the time. I mean, not to me, hopefully, not nearly as much as it used to, but people would come straight from work, like working in at the shipyard or whatever. They go work out before. I'm like, why? Why? Are you gonna have to sit here and I'm not gonna smell you the whole time?
And then the other question was, do you fill in other tattoo artists' work, like if they just did like an outline?
I have. I kind of depending on the situation, and I am lucky enough to have a lot of clientele that give me freedom to do whatever. Or pretty open, and I'll be tattooing them for a while. Then they'll be like, "Hey, you mind fixing this up while we're like done with this project?" And I will. But sometimes I will take on kind of other people's projects, but it tends to be more on clients I've already got kind of a relationship with, because I can only tattoo so many people. That I tend to not want to, jump into like a already existing project, because it might, take depending on, might take me away from doing other, projects that I've already kind of got on the books. And but no, it is definitely possible. But I usually suggest people not kind of start off, requesting that, especially in appointments and stuff like that, because it'll definitely turn most tattooers away, like, but, usually if you have a kind of a few pieces by them, and you kind of tell them the idea, like, hey, I want this fixed up, it'll be a lot more plausible for them to want to get on it, especially if you're an existing client. I really rambled on that question.
No, you're fine. So tell us more about your shop. It's a gallery, it's a shop. How many artists you got? Just tell us more about it, and maybe you get some visitors who see you here.
Yeah, well, my shop's Twisted Anchor Tattoo. We're in Ocean Springs. We opened the shop where it is now in downtown Ocean Springs about 6 years ago. But I've had Twisted Anchor for getting close to 10 years. But the downtown one has been there for right at 6. And I had an idea to make more of a gallery feel shop, as opposed to kind of a walk-in shop, which I'd still love a good walk-in shop, but I thought it fit the area of Ocean Springs significantly more than kind of the walk-in feeling, because they're two completely different. You get a different vibe from a more of a walk-in shop than you do kind of I don't want to call it a private studio, but kind of a gallery style, which is super vague, and no one knew what I was talking about whenever I brought it to the city. It's probably why we had such an issue with the city when we first wanted to open, because they kind of had that stigma of what a tattoo shop was. And I was like, what do you mean you can't understand, like, my brain? Like, you can't envision, this vision that I have. But it took us a little while, and we got it up and running, and it's definitely very close to what I had imagined. We have art shows every other month. We go between like group shows, which is local tattooers or local just artists in general, and then some artists from out of state will enter things depending on what it is. And then we have some solo shows
also from we try to get local artists, or at least like kind of southern artists, to come and do shows as much as we can. It definitely it transforms from like being a tattoo shop to being an art gallery overnight. We move all the tattoo equipment out, you know, hang all this stuff on there, and you know, pull out. We have wine and food and all that for the night. Make an event of it. So no, it's definitely something I thought that the city needed, and it is a labor of love for sure. You can ask Jenna that it definitely. We're not doing it for the money. We do because we love to be able to have be able to support art and artists, especially local ones, and make sure that they have an outlet for their art. And we are super grateful from all the support we have from not just the community, but from like the local art community too. We always get a really good turnout, and we were real bummed whenever we had to kind of cancel a few last year. But I thought we just had a bug themed art show last month, and I think it was like back to the same numbers we were getting before, the Rona. So we were real happy with that. It was a fun night. We sold some art, we had some drinks, and had a good old time. And then I got to talk about local politics for a little bit.
So you sell prints of your artwork, or do you also sell like your sketches of the tattoos? Like, how does that work?
Usually I just sell. I mean, I sell all kind of artwork. I mean, I was an artist before I became a tattooer, and that's how I made a living. Is I sold paintings, and so honestly I'll paint on anything if somebody wants to buy it. I don't have any kind of a attachment to anything that I paint. That's probably because that was my job. I had to sell stuff, like paintings to make a living. But yeah, at the shop we have originals, we have prints. I print my own T-shirts. We try to change up merch. We try to come up with new ways and useful things that people actually can use or want to buy, like do T-shirts, socks, hats. Very very useful things with artwork on it that people have to wear shirts. They have to. Most of us have to wear socks. So I try to do useful things like that because I know not everybody wants to spend a lot of money on paintings and prints for hanging on the walls when they can just buy a T-shirt with it on there and get to wear it around.
That's cool, versatile.
Try to be as useful as possible. So, and we'll always trying to come up or think of new ways to, create things that people want to buy, kind of stay trendy. Whatever the kids are wearing. How's the shading feel?
Some areas it hurts, and some of it is it's bearable. I don't know. Like, people were telling me the outline is worse than the shading, but I would say the opposite.
Well, you're one of those. One of those people.
What does that mean?
I don't know. It's usually about half and half. When I think, depending on where it's at or what you're getting, and there's all kind of different variables. Usually you're not getting tattooed outside in front of people, but I think it's all terrible, and I hate getting tattooed.
But then you love it when it's finished.
I mean, if I didn't love it when it was finished, I definitely wouldn't get them done because you get stabbed for hours on end, and you like it. And we've already talked about this.
Yeah. If you could add up all the hours, how long did it take for all of your tattoos? If you could remember.
I mean, just with my back, and we've only done a few sessions on it. I've got 40 hours or so in just my back. So, and you got to think that the average tattoo session is only 4 hours. So,
You probably got like a month, not more.
I probably have more than I want to remember. But yeah, I mean, just and it's hard because some people time it by the time they sit down to the time they get up, and some people time it from the time they're actually getting tattooed, and so it's all a it's a very common question that I still have no answer to. I always tell people that I'm going to sit down and figure it out, but I lie, and I'm never going to do it. I could even start from like now until I die, and I'd still probably forget about all the new ones that I get. I could probably tell you how many like Jenna's got and how long she has, but that's a little bit easier. How many hours you have tattoo? She probably remembers though. How many hours you got? Yeah. 20-ish.
Oh, okay.
Not very many, relatively speaking.
Yeah, she also got her first big tattoo in front of a bunch of people at a convention in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was regretting that instantly. Yeah, she she legitimately thought she was dying toward the end.
Was it the place? Yeah.
Where is it?
It's on her side. Like it goes from like her thigh to like
Oh, okay.
her under boob area, and yeah, she was not super stoked on that.
So you mentioned like people getting tattooed at conventions a couple of times. Is that a normal thing, like just to show off technique, or how does that come about?
I feel like it's just like a giant like tattoo party, for tattooers to kind of meet and hang out, and then it's also a fun event for clients because they can get to see other people get tattooed, kind of meet other tattooers that they've wanted to, because there's a lot of people out there that just like to like collect tattoos from different people, and then you can get artwork from other from tattooers, because a lot of people don't know that a lot of tattooers do paint and make merch and shirts and stuff like that, and they usually have it there. You can buy. If you don't want to get a tattoo, you can support them that way, and that's what I do too. I put on a show in March in Biloxi called Due South Tattoo Expo, and we bring a lot of tattooers in from all over. A lot of them are friends of mine or acquaintances that we come. We have I don't have as much fun during that one because I've got to make sure that it goes smoothly, but everybody else seems to have a really good time, so I guess it's worth it. Yeah, and I always have people ask if they can get tattooed at the event, and you definitely can. I have no control over that. Is also like they're like I try to, can I set up an appointment with this person? I'm like, maybe you have to ask them. Like most all tattooers are like independent contractors, so, and a lot of them are really bad at like booking appointments or returning emails. So I promise it is a very common thing that more people are frustrated with tattooers because they're just artists that tattoo, so they're usually really bad at any kind of time management, or if you can find one that is good at time management, then and you like their work, stick with that.
So right now he's making the alligator scream.
I think you're doing pretty good with getting stabbed and thinking about questions too.
It's getting my mind off what's going on. I'm a talker. Well, I'm a talker unless I don't want to be.
You know, you're not carrying your weight. I need you to start coming up with some questions. If you're not gonna juggle, you got to do something. Jenna, what's your favorite tattoo convention we've ever gone to?
My favorite what?
You got to come stand over here, ma'am.
What's my what?
What's the your favorite tattoo convention that we've gone to, and why?
Probably Hell City in Phoenix because the property's beautiful, the convention's well run, and I enjoy all the people that we've gotten to know over the years there.
How often do y'all go back to the different conventions? Like, is it annual trips?
So when we find ones that we really, so she asked how often we go back to the same conventions. When we find ones that we really enjoy, we typically try to make that an annual trip. One in Phoenix is one that we'll do together or as a family every year. COVID messed that up, but we'll be back when they start back up again. Columbus, Hell City, he goes to every year as an artist. I've gone once, but I typically stay home with the kids for that one. And then anything that's like Italy, France, I'm on it. I'm going. So,
Do you want another tattoo?
so she asked if I want another tattoo. The thing about tattoos are once you get one, then you want another, then you want another, and then you think you don't want any more, and then that's not what happens. So you still want more. So yes, I do.
Has Matt done all of your tattoos?
Matt has done most all of my tattoos. Besides, I have some roses on my hip that a friend, Eva, did. And then I have a small tattoo of a little coffee cup that one of our artists, Brandon, did.
What's the difference between tattooers, from your perspective, tattooers overseas and tattooers in the States?
From my perspective, I don't know.
Makeup? Oh, you're not doing very good, babe. You can think of better one.
I mean, their style's definitely different.
What do you think influenced the style that was just American artists in Europe?
Who has influenced Matt's artistic style the most? Probably his great uncle Mac, who's also an artist that was Walter's brother. That's kind of who his inspiration started from a young age. And then there, people will stop us at conventions and stuff, and there's really no category to put his art in. There's no name for it. It's just his work, and people know it when they see it. Pretty much everything he does, there's some nuance about it that you can tell he did. So it's hard to say who really influenced that much past his original. I don't know. Do you have any imitators?
I don't think anybody likes my tattoos that much to try to copy.
He's definitely had some tattoos knocked off, not very well. And I would say maybe some people's style is probably, I'm sure he's inspiration to some people, but I don't know if there's any actual imitators.
I feel like you would definitely be able to tell if somebody tried to copy for the most part. I don't think that it's not really. I don't even call it style. It's just how it was drawn since I was a kid. And so it's kind of hard to. Okay, people who do a better job of it anyway. What was on a copy? Just make a better version of it. Who's gonna pour it? Not too good of a few spots.
Your son will probably try to he'll be he would touch it once it's healed and then just try to figure out how is it going to come off. When our kids were little, they were always very confused by what is this?
They did just assume that everybody else had them too. Why don't you let this person have any tattoos?
Yeah, it's funny when we're around kids who aren't exposed to tattoos and they're just they're just like, what am I even looking at? We forget that not all children have seen very heavily tattooed people, because our children have been around heavily tattooed people their entire lives. And so sometimes we will go somewhere different and there will be kids and they're like, jaws drop.
I just thought about a good question. Will you be upset if your kids for their first tattoo is not by you?
Oh yeah, 100%. I'd definitely be getting disowned. I'm more worried about them just not wanting them. I say worried. I don't care if they've gone through not wanting. They tell me they don't want tattoos, or they do. But I feel like I probably would have my feelings hurt pretty good if they decided they didn't want me to do their first one. So we'll see. I doubt they'll do that. Mainly because they can't afford one. They're like, how you gonna pay for that tattoo? Yeah, that's what I thought. I can be petty too.
It was really cool to see Maddie's lecture because, oh wait, sorry. She showed a picture of Goldie Hawn being tattooed, and there was a Barbie of her. And I wish that was sold more. I didn't even know there was a Barbie with tattoos.
I didn't know there was a tattoo Barbie either. I mean, it was kind of a big deal when the Moana movie came out, when Disney put that. It was the first Disney movie of somebody actually getting tattooed, which is weird. I actually didn't think. I guess I never thought about that. But yeah, once it became a Disney, got put into a Disney movie, it's definitely mainstream. So it definitely wasn't something that was going to be put on Disney 10 years ago. Which it's a love-hate relationship with it being more mainstream, because we'd be in New Orleans and people would see me and they wouldn't ask me for money. They would just kind of skip me.
Oh.
But now they don't. So it's man, they just, I guess, thought I was more intimidating. Yeah. I had a lot more street credit whenever it wasn't as mainstream. Now people are just like, oh yeah, now I'm running for public office, and people are completely okay with it. I don't know how many tattooed aldermen you know, or...
Right. So I'm quiet right now because he's getting to a really sensitive part of my arm.
If I could sing, I would just sing, but I don't. Oh, Jenna ran away because she knew I was about to ask her to.
Look, Wendy ran away too because I was about to ask her.
I was-
Somebody did want me to ask, what is your waiting list? Or how long is it, should I say?
I'm good at explaining that. No, what I do is it's an ever evolving process. Right now, I book out 3 months at a time, so I'm never more than like 3 months out. Mainly because years ago I would book out like for infinity, and then at some point I realized that I couldn't make plans with like my kids for like 2 years because I'd had tattoo appointments. So we kind of made a rule that I could only book 3 months out at a time. And so however many projects I finish in the previous 3 months, that's how many kind of new projects I can add, the next 3 months. So it's never like an exact number. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer. Actually, this week I tattooed a gentleman that had been on my books for like 5 years, which I can't believe somebody wants to wait that long to get tattooed by me. To me, that's an absurd amount of time. It's very humbling to think that somebody would be that patient to get tattooed. But he was super nice, and we got to do a really cool tattoo on him. He drove down from like north of Jackson on like a whim because I had a cancellation. Brought his wife and kids, and they hung out, and we got to tattoo him. And so there's never an exact like wait list time. Sometimes I always tell people if they are on there for a little bit and don't get a call, then put in another application online, because if I go through them all myself, and if I see one name more than once, then I kind of, okay, well, that person's serious about getting tattooed, because and be very descriptive on what you want to get done. It never fails that I have at least like a dozen request forms a month that come in and are just blank, and they're like, what do you want? A tattoo? Well, obviously you want a tattoo, but like, what do you want? Where do you want it? Like, and be realistic with like a budget, because again, I'm in the business of it's not a necessity, so I know that tattoos cost money, but if you want one, as long as you tell me how much, like you have a realistic budget, then I can work around that, as opposed to like, there's always the people that are like, money's not an option. Money's always an option, or but money's never a factor. It's always a factor, just I wish I could write a book about all the different consults that I've gotten throughout the years of the random things people will put on paper. I hope most of them are joking and trying to be funny, because that's how I took it. But yeah, just make sure to be very descriptive, and know if you like the tattoos that I do, then you'll probably like your tattoo. But if you just don't like my tattoos, then you probably aren't going to like the tattoo you get. That's another big misconception, that just because I tattooed your friend doesn't mean I have to tattoo you. Your friend might not like my tattoos, or you might not like your friend's tattoo. It's one of those. I've tried to kind of change people's opinion on not every tattooer can tattoo everything. Maybe they can, but maybe they don't want to. But no matter what tattoo you want, there's a tattooer somewhere that specializes in in what you want to get.
So how would you go about finding the right tattoo artist for what you want? Like, do you go to the conventions? Do you just Google it? Like,
Yeah, that's the one of those things about like tattoo conventions and tattoo events is um, that is a good way to like see tattoos like in person that of people that you might want to get tattooed by, because again you might not know something's possible either. Like you might not know that you like my art until you see it, because you don't know what's possible. Like I tell like my apprentice all the time, like draw it, you know. He's like, well, we're not getting asked to do this. I'm like, because no one knows what to ask for. How are you gonna ask for something you don't know exists? But if you see it, you're like, man, that's awesome. Cool. Now somebody likes that. Not everybody has the same, mindset as, an artist. And if they don't see it or they can't visualize it, and they're not going to ask for it, no one's going to ask for, an alligator playing a guitar if they don't, that might not be an option. But, you draw one up, put it out there into the world. That's the great thing about social media right now, is that, a lot of my clients from out of state, found me on, social media and got in contact with me, and like that's what I want to get done. Like they come in and like, oh, I want this animal, and I saw your animals and I really want you to do it. I'm like, okay, well that's perfect. I love doing animals. They did the research. They know that's what I like to do. And then you have some people that it's my art is just not what they like, which is it's not a I'm not upset that somebody doesn't like it, because again I don't like every art either. Like I've got tattooers that I'm friends with that I just don't like their style. I like them as a tattooer or like them as a person, but like I just don't want their tattoos on me. And I feel like that's what makes tattooing an art form, is that it's all it not everyone has to like every piece of art that you put out.
Can I ask you about that tool that you're using? Is it, yeah, the machine. So what is that, how does that work? How are you getting the color under?
Well, this is just a rotary machine, so what it is just there's a little motor in here that goes up and down.
Okay,
And
so it's going up and down?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah,
So
because
just-
I'm looking at it.
Yeah, you can just going back and forth, and it doesn't make any or very much noise like I guess a traditional coil machine, because it's the noise you hear with a traditional machine is just the metal on metal from the magnets in the coil machine.
It looks almost like you're painting.
hmm She says it doesn't feel like that.
It doesn't feel like paper, I should say. Yeah, that's what it looks like almost, though, really. It does. It does.
She's like, it better be pretty after all this.
Or she's going to be complaining. No, she won't. She knows. No. It doesn't put a lot of it's a lot of that process.
What's the gel stuff you're putting
On your
on?
hand.
Oh, this is just A&D. All it does is just keeps the skin kind of moisturized while I'm tattooing, so it doesn't makes it a little bit easier to wipe off the spot. Keeps it pulled up a little bit, so it doesn't just go everywhere. It still goes everywhere, but just not as much. And it gives just lets my hand glide across the skin a little bit better. Some tattooers use different lotions and glides, and it's all preference. It's like any profession. There's always some brand of whatever that people like more. You'll never hear you want to hear tattooers complain, change the paper towels that they use one time and they will lose their minds. Yeah. It's like, this isn't Bounty, Selecticize. It doesn't even have to be, it could be just regular Bounty. They're like, this isn't Selecticize. I'm like, you have a pair of scissors, cut them in half. What the hell? But yeah, never, that is the one thing they will complain so much about. I mean, I remember going, I did a show in Rome, and they gave us uh, paper towels, but they were those paper towels like in the bathroom.
Like brown ones?
Yeah, like the ones you get in in school.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the little trifold ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things were. I felt so bad for everyone that I tattooed that weekend because it was like getting tattooed and then getting wiped with sandpaper. So, so just think it could be worse.
You're a trooper, girl.
Like subject matter or placement. I'm not a huge fan of tattooing on the ribs or the feet. Neck's not one of my favorite either, but I mean, I'm gonna go with the most common one I'll get is like feet and ribs, and mainly because they're not fun places to get, and so usually people don't sit the best for it. And then ribs are just it's like a workout sometimes when you know how I have to position myself, and you know it's almost like I'm just giving them a hug the whole time. You know, they're uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable. So the most common one is something like that. I mean, I've tattooed all over that, but not a whole lot of people are getting a lot of like crazy placements. You know. But yeah.
Least painful area to tattoo? Is it somebody said that if it's over bone, it's more
Your head's the easiest place to get tattooed.
easy. Is it really?
You don't have any nerves in your head, or you have nerves. You just have the least amount of nerves. So I can say that that's true because I have my head tattooed. Yeah. Now, the neck and all that it's awful. But yeah, the head, and everyone thinks that's going to be the worst, but surprisingly, it just sounds it's real, and I mean it's uncomfortable because you can like hear the vibration and all of that, but like pain wise, it's not bad. But as soon as you get on that neck, yeah, not a whole lot of fun.
Got him in my desk drawer. Oh well. Did he fall? No, he didn't fall. I think he just the kids out in the movie theater. And people shut down.
That's the baby alligator. That's the baby
It
alligator.
is very hard to get tattooed moving around.
What are you doing to my mind? You know?
And they can't have your attention, they want your attention.
But if you weren't preoccupied, my kids are like, nope. But as soon as you get occupied by something, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. They'll stop everything. They can sense it.
He's literally taking my phone before out of my hand. And it's like, all we're doing is watching PG Masks. Why can't I be on my phone?
My son will like sneak it just so he could get on a game. And I'm like, wait a second. You have multiple devices that you can get on. And get out of here. He doesn't get mine because she's the one that she'll download the games for him. I'm like, I refuse, or I'll have my phone confiscated. So, plus I'm usually at work and their time to do that.
Is there a difference in like in this one and that one? Like, why wouldn't you use this tool more than the normal tattoo tool?
Oh, like the difference between like a rotary and a coil. Mainly, I use it for convenience and longevity. I've had issues with nerves, like nerve damage in my hand from overuse. So I have, for the most part, use only rotary machines just because my hand will start going numb if I don't. So I still like using them. I'd prefer to use coils if I could, but I can't use them for long periods of time without like my hand starting to see effects pretty quickly. So I figured if I just keep using these, then I'll be able to tattoo for a little bit longer.
So what's the career span for a tattoo artist? Like, because I, like hairdressers, they can do it for so long because of their hands. What's it for a tattoo artist?
I mean, we have a saying that's from the womb to the tomb. So I plan on doing it until I die. So in some form or fashion, I'm sure it'll have to eventually slow down. You know, but until then, well, I've seen enough old tattooers, go for a pretty long time, and until they start getting a little shaky. But even then, there's a lot of old tattooers that would still go around, and the tattoo community, I feel like, supported them. The last few years of their life, whether they wrote a book or still produced artwork. But a lot of them, we'd still get tattooed by some of these guys that, you knew that tattoo was going to come out looking like a 90-year-old man with, the shakes did it, but, it was kind of their signature. But no, there's luckily enough, the tattoo industry kind of supports those guys, and, we support tattooers, as much as we can, which is one of those reasons why I love this, profession so much. We definitely support, the people that are doing the same thing that we do every day. That's above my pay grade.
He was asked what the inks were made of.
Color. No, it's one of those things. It's all it is just it's like alcohol and pigment, and I could probably name it off if I remember enough. It actually is written on the side of the bottles now, but for years it was like top secret stuff, because it was like a competition between tattoo ink brands. It was very top secret. But now they have to start putting at least the ingredients on there. It's all vegan. The only reason I know that too is because I had to call a guy that somebody asked me, and I was like, I'm pretty sure there's no animal in there, but yeah, it's all pretty. It's they're doing science over there, and it's all above my pay grade for sure.
Is there an ink you like better than another? Like, do tattoo artists have a preferred ink?
Yeah, that's just like with any anything. You're gonna have your preferred like tools that you use. I'm lucky enough to have Fusion Ink sponsor me for the last few years, and which is great because I used their product before they even sponsored me, and now I get it for free. So that doesn't make me like it anymore, but I even told them whenever I agreed to it that if I no longer liked the product, then I wasn't going to use it anymore, because I think that's an integrity type thing. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to use it and use something else, and then and I haven't found a better product yet, so at least for my preference.
So I heard that there are some heavy-handed tattooers and some light-handed tattooers, meaning they might put up more pressure on it and it goes further down. Is that true? And if so, which are you?
That's going to be there's always a question. They're like, oh man, this person was a little heavier handed, and you know, it all goes with style. I think there's a lot of tattooers that, you know, it might hurt a little bit more than others, but it's also like the style they do. You know, if somebody is usually pretty efficient, then they kind of don't. They're not gonna, you know, kind of dilly dally. They're gonna get it in there very efficiently, and that tends to tickle a little bit more. But then you get it done quicker. So would you rather it hurt a little bit less for twice as long, or a little bit more, or half the time? So no, I mean, and there's a difference. I mean, some people when they have like blowouts or it happens. You know, different parts of the body have a higher chance of blowing out lines, which is just, you know, lines bleeding underneath the skin. It's not doesn't always have mean that the tattooer did something wrong. You know, this isn't an exact science. We're artists, and it's like the question when people ask me how many layers of skin you go through in a tattoo, and I'm like, I have no idea. You can Google it, because that's exactly what I'm going to do. I know I go through enough whenever I'm tattooing. It's one of those things. I've done it long enough. I know what it's supposed to look like, how deep I'm supposed to go. But there's always variables and things. You know, some people's skin's just a little bit different. You know, and you may not have run into that. There's, you know, skin's crazy. It's fascinating that skin can do some of the stuff that it does. But luckily, with like tattooing being such a big, you know, business now, is it's getting a lot of people are investing money in making products more efficient, and like now we use a different bandage when we bandage tattoos. I use like a second skin that was originally created for burn victims. So it's like a clear film that we'll put over, not like a saran wrap, but like an actual second skin that sticks right there. What it does is it tells your body that it's like an artificial scab, because your body produces white blood cells whenever it gets broken. It pushes out that, it heals the skin, which scabs aren't bad, but they're just not good for tattoos, because it could, you get a big scab on there, it takes a little bit longer for it to heal, and you have the chance of losing pigment. And what this second skin does is it, kind of protects it. It's like a layer of protection, and usually helps heal your tattoo faster than, the traditional way of healing tattoos. So as long as you're not allergic to adhesive, then you can use that option, which is usually, to me, the most sanitary option, and for the style that I tattoo, just seems to work the best. And I personally use it, and I hate to get tattooed without it. Nothing worse than just having a fresh tattoo and somebody comes up and touches it, and it's like, you just picked your nose and you just touched me. That's gross. Because people tend to have less boundaries now with tattoos. So that is one thing. Don't touch people's tattoos without asking. That's just courteous. I have had my arm twisted around by little old ladies more times than I can count. Which I would more than gladly show them off if they ask, but my arm is attached to my body, so please don't try to rip it off. Because I have tattoos so people can see it. If you want to see it, I'll show anybody for the most part, depending on where I'm at. But just gotta ask. That is one of those things that I feel like people may have that aren't real familiar with the tattoo industry sometimes forget that you just gotta ask.
What's some other tattoo etiquette that people may not know?
I'm gonna leave her. She's not being very much help. Besides, don't go into a tattoo shop drunk. That's just because it's annoying. Drunk people are, annoying in the first place, and most people won't tattoo you if you're drunk. Um, I've told my clients, I've had a few that are real nervous. I'm like, we'll go next door and go have a drink, and one drink, come back, calm your nerves. They're like, I thought you couldn't drink. I'm like, you just still be drunk. I mean, that one cocktail is not gonna make you bleed out, I promise. But coming into a tattoo shop belligerent with a bunch of friends is never a good idea. Don't come with a bunch of people to a shop, just in general. If you have an appointment, come by yourself, or some, depending on what shop you're going to, might allow one or two people. That's all up to them. We don't allow anybody besides the client back right now. People seem to sit better when it's just them. They kind of like, people start be acting up whenever you have like a whole group of friends. I'm like, why are you acting up? I feel like if you had more people, you'd want to sit real still. Another thing, I don't know if it's etiquette, but it's a matter of, if you don't like something that, like in a drawing or, whatever, make sure you tell your tattooer. I see it happen quite a bit that, somebody will get tattooed and, they'll come back like a few weeks later, or just in general, they're like, man, or just even stories from people that are just in the shop for the first time saying how they didn't like the way that this was in the drawing, and they wish they would have said something. Say something. Because again, if we don't know that you don't like it, we can't change it. I had a lady that I tattooed this really cool skull and roses on. She came back her next appointment 3 weeks later, and she was like, can we make these not roses? I don't like roses. And I was like, well, if you'd have told me you didn't like roses, I wouldn't have tattooed a bunch of roses all over you. Yeah, I mean, you see it, you like this, you're like, yeah, they look like roses and everything. And I was like, I promise, if you'd have told me you didn't like roses, I wouldn't have tattooed roses on you.
I can't say anything. I did the same thing right for I said, this is what I want, but didn't realize, this is 20 years ago, I didn't realize that it was going to be quite as large as it ended up being on my body. I didn't realize that what he was showing me was scale. So, yeah.
And,
That's all right.
and there's definitely a difference between, like, if I do something and I don't think it's gonna look good, and like another way, like obviously you can only do stuff so small.
Right.
So if I'm not comfortable tattooing something super tiny on you, then I'm gonna say, like, this needs to be a certain size for it to look good. Longevity purposes, and just
Well, it was my naivety that I didn't ask the question.
And that's one of those things I try to make sure that people are comfortable enough with, the situation, and be like, look, tell me, like, this is the best time when you're looking at it in the mirror.
Yep.
Like, before we start tattooing, you tell me if you want it up, down, left, right, sideways, because we can change it right now. In about an hour, we're not going to be able to change it.
Right.
So are you finished?
Not quite. We got a little bit more. I'm going to spray with a little bit of back team.
And then the color on skin or vinyl, it'll come off.
Oh, around here, yeah, that'll go away. My soap to water ratio is a little low in that bottle, so.
Alligator colored in, I can't tell from this viewpoint.
I started doing this. Got the lighter tones in there, and that's what we got to finish up. That gonna do a few like little light tones in here. I'm not gonna put it like sometimes I'll put like a bunch of like yellow in here, but if I do that, then it'll look a little too flashy against that blue. So I'm gonna do is to fade it down to like her skin, and then we'll do like the highlights of like the teeth, and put a little bit more green in our baby gator right there.
It really is cool.
Well, thank you.
Did you get a lot of, well, have you ever gotten a baby gator and a mama gator before?
No, I have not. I've done quite a few alligators, but never uh, a mom and a baby.
Yay, I'm the first.
So yeah, and I have done quite a few of them. I'm just gonna put that.
It is.
Tough spot.
Yeah. It's only really bad when he gets closer to my elbow and closest underneath my armpit.
I have them on my upper arm, but they're on the outside. Women can take pain better.
Get the plastic on there real quick, just so. And then just give it like 5 minutes, and then finish it up.
Okay.
How long have you been working on that one?
We didn't start right at 1.
No, I think we didn't get started till closer to like 1:30.
Yeah. We took a little break. This is going to be the second break we've taken.
And the one on my lower right leg, it took the guy 45 minutes to do it.
350. Thank you.
over here stressing about my battery dying. Then I was over there stressing about my battery dying. And you were holding out. This thing sucks. This trip I got, it's the worst. Ready to finish this thing up? Yeah, she wanted us to do it at the house. Like, she was having to hold the microphone, come up with questions too. I kept looking at, I was trying to get Canada to come up with questions. Every time I needed her to get gone, put them out. I was like, where did she go? Well, I was really stoked whenever wanted to actually just have the exhibit here in the first place. So now that I know that people actually are enjoying it, that's always good, especially if it's bringing in people to the museum. That's what I always told Maddie whenever we were doing it at the museum. I was like, I was kind of happy that there was a lot of people that from Ocean Springs that had never been to the museum or hadn't been in a real long time. Yeah, so I feel like you can never forget that it's there, you know, and I just never forget that it's there because it's kind of a thing. I mean, you know that it's there, but then I was like trying to think of how many times I had actually been in the last 10 years. that come from out of state that will go and check out the museum. We don't have to like say anything. Like they just like trying to look to find fun stuff to do and decide to go there. And then the museum loves to see those. So what's cool is ask people what they're doing, their local or what, and they always think it's great when me and my clients. A lot of them come in like a day or two early to kind of get acclimated before they statue, or stay a little bit later, kind of check the city out. If they have an extra day, or more than not, they'll end up there. Just film around, and it's extra cool because they get, they treat them really nice over there. And then I think it's really cool that they made the trip all the way to Ocean Springs to get tattooed. A block. Maybe 2 blocks. We're on so it's on Washington. We're on government. A lot of people don't notice that it's a tattoo shop because it's a relatively pretty building. We try to keep it. It doesn't look like a tattoo shop without the words tattoos that are on there. That's what we were going for. So. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of those clear bandages on you. I'm going to give the rundown, which is just, you're going to leave it on for 24 hours. You're going to take it off in the shower. You're going to clean it with warm soapy water. You're going to let it air dry for about 15-20 minutes. Then you're going to take the other bandage that I gave you, and you're going to put that on and leave that one on for 48 to 72 hours. And do the same thing. You're going to take it off in the shower. Clean it really well, warm soapy water, let it air dry, and then after that second application, you're just going to leave it. You're not going to put a third one on. You can do just a non-scent hand lotion on for the next 2 or 3 weeks. So, make sure you're cleaning it. Anything that doesn't have as long as it's not no fragrance, then it's been perfect. You do got to make sure some of them are gonna, they say, like original or whatever. That's not fragrance worthy. Original is still like a fragrance. Because I've made that mistake before years ago, putting it on, and it burns like fire. It's just like, what all that is got rubbing alcohol in it. Nope. I'll give you another one. understand, but they, they may have. We just haven't got it yet. But I'm just gonna have to find one because I want to see if it was good enough for you to drive all the way down here for it, and it must have been a really good article. Definitely go find one, but I would definitely love to.
See, there was a reason for me to come back down and mention this. You have your country's like, yeah, I know.
I'm very happy that the weather at least held out for.
Well, we've got a good spot here anyway, but yeah, it's good spot all day.
I was worried about that.
Sorry?
I said I was very worried about it being a little too hot being outside. I was like, I hadn't tattooed outside in a long time.
So you went upstairs and looked at your stuff upstairs, and it's the description says it's done with tattoo. Is there any, like, I guess, big differences in using tattoo ink or watercolor for?
I mean, there's a little bit, but the only reason I started using it that way was because I couldn't afford both whenever I first started tattooing. So I just decided
Rather well use
I was like, I'll figure out how to use it. I mean, it's all kind of the same. I guess if you add water to it, it's watercolors. But no, it's a little bit more vibrant. You have to kind of dilute it a little bit. But other than that, it acts pretty similar to watercolor. I do like using it mainly just because of like whenever I'm doing a painting, I can paint, and then if I tattoo that same image, I already know what color it's going to be because I use tattoo ink to do it. And it's still more convenient. I guess if I'm at the shop doing a painting, and I can just do it. I don't have to have another. But I still like to paint with watercolors now and then. Mainly just so sometimes I feel like more of a real artist if I use traditional art supplies, yeah. So then they started using liquid acrylic, which I've used that, and that's pretty much the way that the tattoo ink acts. But I just started using some different gouaches. Not a huge fan, but I'm also again just started using them. I mean, I can get the job done. It just takes me a little bit longer to get the same thing done. Which I'm like, well, maybe it's just not used to it, and it'll get quicker. It's kind of the same thing. I don't do none of digital art because I just don't like it. It takes me a long time. But I do still do it every once in a while to make sure I'm staying relevant.
How are you hanging in there? You're going on for a while, huh?
She doesn't hate me yet. Yeah, I'm trying to stay away from that so I actually have to, but luckily most of that's done. We're just doing a couple little highlights. And then she'll be golden. She's had to like hold the microphone the whole time. Like I had to come up with questions while getting tattooed.
Is anybody interested?
I'm
I'm gonna have to make everybody start doing that now. Like, if you want to interview me, you have to get tattooed.
Well, it makes a great arrangement to it here, you know. You go off for a while, go to the gym, look at stuff, come back.
It did take me a little bit longer to do than I did. We also got a little later start than us. Forget how long it takes me to set up and everything in a new place.
Do you live outside of the office now, or?
I mean, I traveled quite a bit. I haven't traveled. This is the first time I've been outside the shop, you know, in the last however many, like, year and a half or since, you know, lockdown and stuff like that. So it was like the first time I had to like get my travel stuff out. I had to like restock my stuff. I was like, man, I haven't done this in a real long time. You know, I was waiting to like forget something because I'm notorious for like getting to a different state or whatever, and you're like, oh, I forgot my power supply, and the only thing that saves me there is like they usually like have places I can buy, like I can buy like a supplies at shows, or I'm at a shop. But here I was like, I better double check because nobody's gonna have. I don't have to like borrow some from the exhibit, my own like machines and stuff like that.
Yes.
I always forget that machine's there because I haven't seen it in like 3 years. It's been at Walter Anderson first, and then here.
Oh, wow.
The same thing with there's a painting up there that I looked for like 3 weeks, and I was like, and then I went back through like an email that Maddie had sent me, and like, oh, okay, that's where it's at. It's in Marie. That makes sense why I couldn't find it. So I was losing my mind. I thought I was like asking my kids, I was like, did y'all do anything like and like get rid of the evidence? You know.
They're young enough to have done something like that, right?
You know, they're young enough to like, well, it'd be my daughter would be like spill something or like knock something over and then try to hide the evidence. My son, he's not a good liar. He can't like lie to save his life. It's either that or he's just playing the long game. So like years from now, he'll be able to like, save up, real nice. And when he's a teenager and like, oh, I've never lied. So we'll see
My
if it's,
sister has.
we'll see if that's his long game. Alright, let me wipe this thing down and let's see what we got here. Wipe it all off, man.
It is so beautiful in comparison to what my mind thought when you mentioned what the design was going to be, what the tattoo was going to be.
I only do real friendly things. Like, I can't really make anything look mean. I've found out over the years, I don't have the ability to make things look mean or angry. I don't know what it is. Like, I've tried one or two. I've come real close, but I'm not good at it at all.
Well, that's good. There's too much being angry in the world.
It's like, I can make it look mischievous, happy. There's a lot of things I can do, but real angry is just not up.
So is that done now?
You're done.
Excellent, very nice.
Right.
Oh my God. Isn't that?
So is that the first time you've seen it now?
Yes. Put it down. Good.
Cool, very nice.
You can sit up. I was gonna say just go check it out in the mirror, but we don't have like a mirror here.
You've been laying down for a while.
And then what we'll do is we'll wipe it all off real good, and then we'll get a couple pictures, put it together, and then I'll get remind my kids about that kind of stuff.
Still 3 bars.